There is so much going on at the Roundhouse that it sometimes seems the bills died or forgotten as soon as they die in committee, or the House or the Senate, the floor kills them. It just doesn't matter. The past passes. But there are a couple of bills that died during the last week that together provide an interesting picture of the everyday back and forth that is New Mexico culture. A proposed ban on coyote killing contests and the same-sex marriage amendment. Let's start with coyote in that bill. Let's start with you, Javier, on this one. It was interesting listening to the testimony from home, the live stream, and the culture clash, basically, that came with this. Ranchers see the contest as a fairly benign event that just helps them get to a goal, which is keeping depredation low, predators low, all that kind of thing. On the other side of it was clearly a lot of heartburn and angst about the reputation it gives New Mexico in some other ways, too. But the bill did not pass, and it had a lot of momentum going in. What's your sense of that one? Let's start there.
I believe it'll come back. It was an interesting debate about this culture of hunting, which for many families in New Mexico is something that goes back generations, but not necessarily the contest or contests for prizes where you're piling up animal carcasses on truck beds. Right. And I think it's an interesting debate between rural New Mexico and urban New Mexico. But Nate Cody, who brought it forward, I think has a good cause. He's just trying to take on this inhumanity to our natural surroundings, which so many in New Mexico have a real respect for. And I think that's an important part of the debate.
You know, a lot of historical stuff, Sophie, listening to this about the relationship with the coyote, the relationship going back to granddads were mentioned, great-granddads were mentioned in testimony. This is always the way it's been done. And it was very interesting to hear that urban push. Specifically, Brian Egolf was very strong on this one too, along with Nate Cody and some others. Really saying, look, there's another way to do this. But there was just a block. It just wasn't going to happen in that kind of a testimony hearing.
And I think that we see that divide between the urban and the rancher over and over again with so many different issues in this state. Ranching is a big part of our larger state's culture and community, and but at the same time, there is this huge gap between the reality. I remember going on a tour to some of the ranches in the southern part of the state, and ranchers there talking about having to build coyote boxes for their kids to stand in, waiting for the school bus, and the terrible concern that they felt for their kids, for their livestock, etc. So different from what we experience in the city. And so in some ways, it's hard to understand each other.
Are we guilty in the city of just looking at this too romantically, the coyote? We have shirts, we have mascots for our university in the biggest city in this state. You know what I mean? Are we missing something here on this urban thing on the coyote?
I don't know. I mean, I think it is so, in the same way that I believe that people in farm areas, also in ranching areas, and to a certain extent in the suburbs, look at the city and it seems so dangerous. Right. I think it is possible that we look out at the ranchers and think that that's somewhat idyllic and don't quite get. And to be honest, I'm very much against, I'm speaking from this other side, but I'm very much against the coyote hunts. I think that they're barbaric, and the idea of having prizes for killing them, it really disturbs me deeply. But I also think if we're not able to communicate in a way in which we're clearly understanding what each side is looking for and is dealing with, we're not going to be able to come to good solutions.
I like that. Margaret, same question, same issue with the coyote killing contests. Is it as bad as we might think it is up here in the bigger city, or is there something that needs to move forward here?
Well, I think the New Mexico Cattle Ranchers Association would definitely agree that that city folk have an overly romantic, idealized view of what life is like in rural areas of the state, and that the economic reality for ranchers and farmers is very real. And at the same time, I think there is something about this public and much publicized image of these, what looks like wanton slaughter of an animal that's roaming its own territory.
Now, as we film this, by the way, on Thursday afternoon, the vote on the trapping bill actually have happened this morning, Friday morning, as we watch this all tonight, Friday night. Same issues, Jamie. But trapping, some folks would call it just heinously barbaric. But it's a way of life, as folks testified up there. Can those kind of things ever be reconciled, or is someone going to have to profoundly lose here in order for things to get reconciled?
It's going to be interesting to hear this debate because I'm differential to the ranchers in the state, who I think for the most part are good people that manage the land and manage their livestock and are protecting their own families and have a history of doing this in a responsible way. They've been very opposed to the introduction of the wolf, reintroduction of the wolf into New Mexico, because they know that that's hurting their livestock. But that's, I think, the debate that's going to happen. I think they ought to be heard out.
Sure. Representative Brian Egolf's bill to offer a constitutional amendment to recognize marriage by same-sex couples also down in committee this week, with Democrats Debbie Rodella and Mary Helen Garcia voting against it. Javier Benavides, this is something that was included in the National Party reform. What happened here?
You know, I was actually sitting in the committee room when this was debated and when it went down. And interestingly, Mary Helen Garcia and Debbie Rodella are both from very liberal, progressive districts in the state, so they have to go back and explain this to their constituents. But it was a very moving debate. The Speaker of the House was in tears when he presented his story about a constituent who had dealt with some of the hate around this topic. And then also some young people spoke, which I thought was very compelling. They talked about how, for their generation, this is a non-issue. And polling tells us the same thing, that 20, 30, 40 years from now, are we going to look back on this like we look back on segregation? And ask ourselves, were we on the wrong side of history?
Let me slip Sophie in on that one too, because it's interesting you just mentioned that polling. Statewide polling, however, in our state shows a very close situation. In some groups, a liberal, lefty, Democrat, whatever you want to say, were not exactly supportive of this bill because the feeling was it would not win on a statewide constitutional vote. It's
a real challenge, and to a certain extent, I think it's happening here. It's happening on a national level. I will say that on Thursday, the White House submitted a brief on the Supreme Court California Proposition 8 case, saying that as far as they were concerned, Prop 8 should be overturned and same-sex marriage should be allowed in California. We're seeing incredible shifts across the country. I do believe it's going to remain a state issue. If not this year, it will be back, as it has come up before the legislature before. This is not the first time. And I do believe it's going to come up again and again until it passes. There's been an incredible shift just in the Republican Party over the last couple of years over this issue. People are evolving, to use the term that has been—
And a big loss didn't hurt in that.
Yeah, they're evolving very quickly on this issue. And I believe that our state will as well, that we will see that change happen over the next couple of years. I just think we're a little bit behind.
Margaret, are we at the point where the future, as Sophie mentions, to have a statewide vote on this and it would pass? What's your sense of the viability of that?
I think, unfortunately, that we are a little bit behind the curve statewide. And I think, but I do think, however, that this really is a matter of if, it's going to pass eventually. And like you said, young people, and I think lawmakers are starting to understand that the tide among younger voters who are emerging as a powerful constituency, it's unavoidable. And if lawmakers want to get sort of ahead of that tide, they will get behind this kind of legislation.
Interesting, but we know how it works here, though. Unless there's that backdraft behind you of constituents, it becomes a difficulty. But we've also got some big celebrities coming out. Speaking of Prop 8, Clint Eastwood, some other folks are saying, it's time. Let's move forward with this.
I noticed my former boss, Carlos Gutierrez, former Commerce Secretary, signed on to the letter as well as some other prominent Republicans. But I think here in New Mexico, my observation with Representatives Rodella and Garcia, while their districts may be Democratic, I'm not sure they're progressive. I actually think that they're heavily Hispanic, heavily Catholic. And so they're responding to the cultural the grounding there. There's a heavy influence of the Catholic Church and the Traditional Values Coalition that are shaping the politics in our state. So
and a lot of outside, so to cut you off, they're going to move along, but a lot of outside money would come in as well. That's the fear opposing this, and it would be a real mess.
Although I think it's worth noting that at least nationwide, Hispanics poll as more positive.
Younger Hispanics.
Younger Hispanics, thank you. More positive toward marriage equality than many other populations.
Exactly right. We're on the clock now with a mere minute to speed through headlines from the week. Let's start with the promise or hope of compromise on the driver's license issue. The so-called two-tiered license bill that will give dreamers, we know who they are, a provisional license, give everyone else a Real ID Act compliance license. Well, take licenses away from undocumented immigrants was killed in committee. Javier, there's a similar measure alive in the Senate. But is that one on the Senate side going to go any further than the House side, or this two-tiered idea? You
know, there's just not an appetite for the governor's approach. I think people are looking to address the fraud, which is the real issue. It's not a manufactured issue like the governor has done with this issue. And there was a New York Times story on Sunday that, you know, this is a bit of a national embarrassment that we spent so much time on this one issue at the expense of our economy, job growth, everything else that we could be spending time on.
Sure. Absolutely.
I agree. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. And I think to a certain extent, there's going to be a certain amount of let's wait until this next election, see if this governor sticks around.
That's right.
You know, let's see if we can drag it out.
There is a strategy to all this, isn't there, sometimes?
There is, and I do think it'll be interesting, too, how this plays out in the context of the Real ID Act. And New Mexico is still behind the curve when it comes to compliance with that. One of our reporters, Robin Brown, has been following that issue, and it'll be really fascinating to see with the election whether that plays out on a national.
Makes sense. Going to hold you there, Jamie. A little time on that one. Governor Susana Martinez and Secretary-designate Hannah Skandera saw their social promotion bills in both the House and Senate. They are forced to deal with whatever is left, and there are measures still alive, but less aggressive, perhaps, Sophie, than what they would like. Swan song for social promotion. And I said to our producer, Matt Grubbs, by the way, what's interesting about this one to me is they all died with a whimper. There wasn't some giant crescendo. There wasn't some cataclysmic, forces against each other. They just sort of all just went away.
Right, and I think we've talked around this table before about this idea of the unfunded mandate. Right. And that is sort of the and now we will not talk about it anymore. I mean, that's sort of the thing that you can say to make it go away. I think every year of this governor's administration, I've thought, is she going to bring that back? Is it going to come back? And so far what we've seen is, yeah, it does come back. Yeah. So I would anticipate that we will see this again.
Sure. Going to get you on this one, Jamie. Sorry about that.
I think the interesting thing, I think at the beginning of the year I predicted that this would probably go through, that they'll find a way to get this through. And so I'm surprised that we're at this stage that it's not happening. But I think that's probably due to the strength of, perhaps the Democrats have gotten a little bit wiser about putting alternatives out there, and I think that's how this is, how this has happened. I personally am in favor of the social promotion bill, but
10 seconds, Margaret, for you.
I did think it was interesting that the PED spokesperson pointed out that the Democratic alternatives to this bill don't have the kind of funding and bipartisan support that their bill did. I thought that was an interesting point to bring up.
A bit of a dust-up in Santa Fe after a KRQE report detailed a $100,000 public kitchen upgrade at the governor's mansion, including a fancy in-wall coffee maker. Just kind of stick it in the wall. That cost a few $1,000s. This isn't the private kitchen at the residence. Let's be clear here. This is not where the governor and the first man hang out. This is the public side where official functions happen. But, Margaret, is it a bad move by a cost-busting governor? It just doesn't look good.
Well, I think this really would be a non-issue if she hadn't made such a big public show about taking Richardson's administration to task about their, overspending and made a big to-do about scaling back all of those excesses. So some of this inevitable political comeuppance.
Cigarette smoke smell left over.
Exactly.
Cigars.
It was real. Cigars, not cigarettes. You're right, exactly. Jamie.
I just find it as an example of how inefficient government can be. This is the General Services Department being the contractor, and this is what they do. They waste government money. That's right. And
this is our version of the
exactly.
federal.
And one cup. I talked to a caterer and he said, "Would you actually, if this is supposed to be caterer friendly, one cup at a time? It's absolutely ridiculous."
At a function.
At a function.
Right. It's amazing.
Ridiculous.
Well, this is coming from the governor whose campaign narrative was to sell the jet. So now it's sell the coffee maker. And, she said she was going to eat bologna sandwiches with her husband. I think there was more bologna in those sandwiches than meets the eye.
Interesting. Right on. Sophie, actually on the bell. No, go ahead. We'll get you the next one. So much for the fiscal cliff, a last-ditch effort of what some say was a questionable sincerity to avoid sequestration has, at least as of a recording right now on Thursday, failed, Jamie, those two votes in our Congress. Rotten news for New Mexico. I can't even think of anything else to say.
And any other state that's dependent on federal dollars. Wrong for national security. I'm a big hawk on these issues. I just think that this is a tragedy. And I think the Bob Woodward has proven to be correct. It said this is Obama's sequestration and nobody else's.
Well, I laugh. Well, we'll see what happens as of next week. What do you think, Margaret, on this one?
Well, I mean, New Mexico gets more than 12% of its state funding from the federal government, and a lot of that's going to hit the bases really hard. It's going to hit education hard, which is especially painful right now as we're talking about education debates. And it's not going to help congressional ratings, which are hovering, approval ratings hovering just above North Korea and the Kardashians. That's what I read, so that's unfortunate.
Javier, your thoughts on this?
It's tough. I mean, this is a bit of a manufactured crisis. The deficit's going down. And this would be the absolute worst time to kick the props out from under our economic recovery, especially in New Mexico, where this would be ground zero for these kinds of cuts.
I'm going to hold you there, Sophie, right on the bell there. Margaret Wright from New Mexico Compass, thank you for joining us the first time. You were great. It was terrific. Javier, always good to see you too. You got it. Thanks as always for watching. Let us know what you think about our discussions by finding us on Facebook at NM in Focus. I'm Gene Grant. We'll see you next week in Focus.